Addiction is what happens when the soul can't find a way to cry. And that single truth changes everything that we think we know about grief and dependency.
Hey there, I am Jessa. I am a South American trained shaman. I have been working with Amazon plant medicine and Andean spiritual cosmology for nearly a decade. I'm also a Tantra coach, an alchemist, a channel, and an all around cosmic witch. So let's talk about it.
Addiction is caused by sorrow. This might even not be your sorrow, it could be ancestral sorrow. You could be here as a chain breaker. When sorrow is not processed through grief, it creates addiction. So, how do grief and addiction intersect? This is what we're going to go in today. If you want more information about grief itself and the process of grief, there is another video that I will link below. Addicts are oftentimes the deepest and most profound people that I encounter. Addiction is complex. It is biological, emotional, ancestral, environmental. What I am teaching here today is the spiritual layer, the metaphysical pattern beneath the symptoms. Addiction stems from sorrow. This is a sorrow that is so vast and deep, it affects all humanity. The greatest human suffering comes from separation from source. Here is the truth: we are separate from source. And the paradox here is that this is also the greatest blessing we get to experience as human beings. We get the opportunity to be separate from source. You see, we are not truly separate, but consciousness perceives separation. This perceived separation creates longing. Longing creates sorrow, and sorrow becomes addiction when it cannot find a path to return home. I remember years ago working in a Christian church, and there was always this conversation that centered around the God shaped hole. Oftentimes, addiction is a way to fill this hole, and we all experience addiction. We just judge those that have addictions that scream the loudest. And yes, addiction, particularly chemical addictions, ruin lives. Addiction is most often met with shame for good reason. The lives of those stuck in chemical addictions and the lives of those that are directly impacted by addiction or addicted people suffer. Chemical addiction is often accompanied by toxic behaviors such as betrayal, theft, abandonment, and emotional trauma. What I am saying here doesn't excuse or justify the behaviors. This is only meant to uncover some of the patterns in order to build a bridge to understanding. When we are able to identify and clarify patterns, we gain the power to set boundaries and to access acceptance. There is a difference between shame and toxic shame, and both of these play a role in addiction, the addict themselves, and in the people that are surrounding them. Toxic shame comes up when something happens to us and we develop the belief that something is wrong with us. Not wrong with our circumstances, not wrong with our behaviors. Therefore, there is nothing that can change or be done to rectify the situation or ourselves. Toxic shame leads to more toxic shame. This is where the cycle begins. On the other hand, shame is when something happens to us and we don't want to repeat the pattern or have the same thing occur. It is a way of looking at our behaviors and saying, oops, I fucked up. I will change my behavior to not have that happen again. Shame lets us know when we need to self correct. There are only two paths from sorrow. The first path is sorrow to grief, to transmutation, to beauty for all of consciousness. The second path is sorrow to addiction. Addiction is not about the substance, it's about the intensity of the relief. For some people, The sorrow they carry is so vast that only the strongest numbing agents will feel like enough. Addiction is a universe's way of trying to cycle us back through the lessons our soul needs to learn so that we can move into the cycle of grief. Unprocessed sorrow doesn't just sit in the soul, it sits in the nervous system. Addiction becomes a coping mechanism to regulate what the body cannot hold. When we can move into grief, process the emotions, and transmute the grief, we emerge from the depths renewed. Grief is the alchemical fire. It breaks open what sorrow has locked down. It moves the frozen places, reorders the nervous system, and returns us to the truth of connection. And addiction creates two grief journeys, the one inside the addict and the one carried by everyone who loves them. This is where 12-step programs are pointing in the right direction, but also where they often fail. We can tap into our higher power to overcome our enslavement to that outside of ourselves. But if we are looking for something outside of ourselves to save us, we will not find it. When we can process sorrow, we will encounter the higher power within. And this is the path of return. Addiction is not proof of failure, it is proof of sorrow that longs to return home. And grief is the pathway home.
Hey, so if this resonated, visit my website at jessafreimeyer.com to explore upcoming courses, free offerings, and don't forget to click the buttons. New videos on spiritual leadership, desire alchemy, and embodied transformation every week. See you next time.